Hello to our Dreaming with Entrepreneurs and Google Plus community members. I think 890 of you, I think we're up to now. By the way, there's going to be a special offering to the next 100 folks that sign up for our community. I'm not going to share with you what it is. I'm going to surprise you with it, but I promise you it'll be something you'll enjoy and have fun with. In our ongoing discussion with SEO Help, 20 semantic search steps that will help your business grow by David Amerlin. This is absolutely the finest book that I have seen about Google. And there's a lot of things that I like about it. There's 200 things I think I like about it. Didn't we figure that out, Vivek? There were 200 things, and among those things is the way that David actually talks about the topic at hand, the actions, the semantic search step at hand. But at the end of each chapter, he gives very explicit directions, simple directions, on what you need to do to make that happen for your marketing, be it your website, be it your Google Plus profile page, whatever that particular semantic step is. So we started our discussion, Vivek and I started our discussion on Monday, I guess it was, Vivek.
Mm-hmm.
And the timing was perfect. Vivek and I had we're in the midst of launching our website, dreamingwithentrepreneurs.com. And I said, what a neat idea it would be, Vivek, if you and I looked at David's book, went down each one of the action steps to see how we measured up with our site and with our activity. We didn't have access to the action steps before we were building our site, so it was kind of interesting. So we got a pretty good grade on that, didn't we, Vivek?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a wonderful experience this afternoon. In a couple hours, David himself and I are going to have a discussion about the website in terms of semantic search and how it measures up to his definition, his action steps. And I said to him, absolutely, David, no holds are barred. I want you to really attack it any way you possibly can. We'll have the tech guys trying to see if they can get beyond our firewall, and that effort's going to be led by none other than William Rock is going to lead that effort. But in today's discussion, we're going to talk about Google Analytics. On page 110 of David's book, he states it also allows you to integrate Google Analytics linked to your website and also gauge the business page activity in Google+. What I wanted to do today is have Vivek, my website developer, and have an individual join us, another community member, William Rock, and William has the reputation, and I'm not blowing smoke here, William. He has the reputation of being one of the most knowledgeable folks out there, understanding Google Analytics and what makes Google tick. And so he has very graciously come in and offered some time to talk about Google Analytics specifically and how they specifically relate to our Dreaming with Entrepreneurs and Google Plus, our dreamingwithentrepreneurs.com website. Good morning, William, and good morning, Vivek. Actually, why don't each of you take a maximum of 60 seconds to tell folks a little bit about yourself. You are not allowed to use the word help in your description of yourself, but tell folks in 60 seconds what it is you do and why you do it. Let's start with Vivek.
Namaste. My name is Vivekananda. I believe in living a simple life. I believe in thinking differently. I am proud to share my beliefs with Steve Jobs and Leonardo da Vinci, who said simplicity is the ultimate in sophistication. So that's my main aim, simplicity. So if you are struggling with managing projects, managing technology, if it is chaotic, then talk to me. Integrate, simplify life.
You know, Vivek, I've heard you do that kind of speech. How many times? 250 times? I don't know. And you actually did the best job I've ever heard you do just now. Thank you.
Well
You're
done.
getting good. You must have a good marketing and sales coach. Okay, William Rock, what is it that you do and why do you do it from Kansas City?
What I do, I'm William Rock, and I basically build companies and I show them how and teach them analytics and successful conversion data so that they can build and grow their business even further.
You build companies.
Yes, I do. I coach a lot of people. And so basically what I'm trying to do right now is coach into the executive space so when they're in board meetings they can start to understand the basic components of what they're looking for in the data for their teams.
Wow, you are a member of the board of the Dreaming with Entrepreneurs in Google Plus community. So you're inside the boardroom today. Why don't you and Vivek take over? I'm going to sit back and listen about a discussion on Google Analytics and how it relates to dreamingwithentrepreneurs.com. And if I have a question, I will politely raise my hand and ask the question.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I actually do have your guys' Google Analytics up, and Vivek, we can actually talk about this as well as we're going through. I've got a couple of things I'd like to highlight to go with both of you guys because I think this is going to help a lot of people. When we look through the interface, it's very difficult to look at. It's overwhelming to look at when you first jump in, is better term. So can you see my screen up on there right now?
Yep.
Okay, so I still have a Kindle reader. As we're at that same chapter with David's book. But let's go over to the analytics. Let's take a look at, we don't have a lot of data in the dashboard just yet because we've just started the website. And this is going to be typical for anybody. So when you have set up your Google Analytics, you'll start to see, not immediately, within about 24 hours, you'll start collecting that data. So you're not going to have a lot of information to go on right out of the gate, but that's something that tells us that there is data being collected for us. So if you don't see that data being collected and it's been maybe a week, definitely make sure that that is actually installed properly. You can also go into your admin and under the tracking code or tracking information, you can verify that that's actually going on. So it'll actually see at the very top, it says status receiving data. So that'll also verify within, I normally check, I would install code, and then I'll keep checking back a few hours periodically just to make sure that that's gone. Don't get, overwhelmed if that has not actually started collecting data because it's just that time process. Once it gets going, then you have no problems. You'll always want to make sure that when you are looking at your reporting dashboard that you don't see a huge drop in your traffic. If it stays dropped for a few days, that might mean that your code is actually broken. So those are little things to identify because you're going to be in this dashboard. I normally suggest being in this dashboard once a week, just to look at it. You don't have to spend a lot of time, especially if you're, executive on the team and you're just wanting to be able to check your department and say, okay, well, how much traffic did we get to this section of our website if it might be like a particular product that they're in charge of. And so back in the meetings they can come back and really define and have answers or questions for those marketers in the meeting so that they can contribute. So going back to the analytics.
William, I'd like to make a quick comment here.
Yeah.
I see that the spike actually starts, it looks like the 27th of February, yep.
It does.
And that just coincidentally is the day that we installed Google Analytics. So it's showing the whole month of February flatlined. That would get to somebody, but the fact that now we see a spike happening, it happened the day that we put analytics to use to work.
And sure, that basically would say, okay, the flat line, yeah, we didn't have anything going, but it would go back to if the code was broken, so to say, down in the future. We did a modification to the website, and all of a sudden, the webmaster accidentally blew it out. I've done it many times where I accidentally blow out the code, or a tag is not closed, and all of a sudden, the code's now broken, and that, it happens. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's take a look at some of this data and what we need to actually break it down. And so what I like to start out with is these guys up here. It's at the top left-hand corner. So when you get in, the first thing you're going to see is kind of your dashboard. You'll see your basic screens. But what I want to do is dig into it, because I don't really need to know my average. It's good, but I want to dig deeper into like my geo. So like, let's go into our location, and I'll show you how to build a shortcut so it's easy to come back to. Now, with your site, you're actually global, so you're seeing traffic all over the United States. You've got all over the place. So we can scroll down here. You start looking at because again, you're international. But let's just take a look at the United States traffic, and then as we look at this, we can then see the entire map. It's going to start to grow here. As right now, we only have 6 positions, locations that we can take a look at. If we went further, down here in the bottom where it says show rows, like by default it's only going to show you 10. So as your data collects and you actually end up getting a lot more information, so that we can kind of target what these pieces are, you can say, oh, let's go down to 100 results, and so now it'll expand 100 different results. Right now we don't have it, so it's not going to show it.
You know what's fun about this statistic right now, William, and we're obviously very, very early, just a couple days into it. I know the Ohio folks, I know the Washington folks, I know the Georgia. I personally know them.
There you go. So,
I hope the day comes where I personally don't know everybody.
So basically, I've got 2 areas, and the other thing that we want to be able to do is filter out our IPs. So another good thing to do is to go out to like, what is my IP? And I'm not going to show that, but when you type in what is my IP, you basically end up with a whole lot of information. So
you better not show my IP to the public.
No, but anyhow. With that, basically we've got Cincinnati, we got Wyoming. We can kind of dig a little bit deeper if we wanted to. But what I want to be able to do is back up the screen real quick, because I want to go back to the U.S. map and go up to the top here and say I want shortcuts, right? So the shortcuts are going to basically be location, right? So basically you've got we can change the name if we go, okay, this is U.S. location, so USA location, and so basically then you can start tracking other ones if you wanted to. And so now it just dumps it right up here in the shortcuts, right? So basically with the shortcuts, we can easily quickly get back to it. But let's go find another one. So what I want to be able to do is I want to go down to all traffic. So let's go into like my referrals. Okay, so we can actually see that different things are coming. Some of these, like this right here, is basically it's just a bot. So that's not really valid traffic. So there's ways that you can actually filter this data out. So like, for example, if I copy this, I can actually go into my admin, and I can set it as a filter. So I can go into my new filters, and I can basically say this is coming from, it's going to be that as a label, and then I can go, okay, select what I don't want to include, I want to exclude this traffic, and then I want to be able to say this is actually from traffic from host name, and then contains. And then I'm going to drop the host name into here, but I'm only going to have the root of that. I can verify the filter. Let's see if it'll actually filter this one.
How many people in the world know how to do what you're doing right now? Vivek, do you have any experience in doing some of this stuff that William's doing?
No, not quite.
I mean, this is you don't get any heavier than this, right? This is bottom line.
Yeah.
So basically, what you ended up doing here is you're basically going to look at the traffic that you don't want to really see. Like this was just a bot, and there's a lot of documents out on the internet that talk about this one because as your website grows, this kind of interrupts your data, and then the same thing you would do the same thing with a filter with your IP address. So whoever's coming from your office, you don't want to necessarily see that traffic either. So you can filter that out. And all you've got to do is just go out to you type in on Google what is my IP, and you'll see your IP address. Take that IP address, put that into the exclude folder, and now you've done the same thing. So now that's not going to be pulled into your dashboard. And so, for example, when we go back into like the geo, let's go back up to our shortcut. So we don't have to go back over here to geo, but now just go up here to location. When we look at that and we dive back into Ohio, right? We know you're in Cincinnati, right, David?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be 3 visits from you, and then the same thing with the Veek and anybody else on your team, like myself.
But you say 3 for me, and they probably were 3, but that wouldn't necessarily be true. That all 3 were.
You're absolutely correct, because that could be, when we look at, we dig deeper, right? So you're right. So there's, we don't.
Vivek, are you mad at me that I've only been to the site 3 times?
But see, I think that brings up a good privacy thing too, David, because it's a privacy thing that Google's actually given us. They're not allowing the actual person to find it down to the actual GPS location, but it's just a radius. Where did they come from? Because when we start doing local search, when we do a local search, when we're looking for, a web designer in Kansas City, all right, well, that makes sense. Or if I'm doing a plumber, I'm looking for a plumber, and I'm actually doing that just straight plumbing, water leak, and that's going to find all those plumbers in the location that I'm at. So geolocation is going to be one of those prime things. It's very helpful for mobile. Mobile technology is another key. And you'll actually see that too when you start looking a little bit deeper into your reports over here on the left-hand side. You can then, you can dive in. So we talked about mobile. So let's take a look at that a little bit. Let's go into, our devices. Let's see if there's anything coming in right now. So right now, what's happening is, we've got some mobile devices going through iPad, iPhone right now. This list is gonna really collect even more information. But what we're gonna do here is we're also gonna go back up to the top and do a shortcut. So we're going to, instead of just devices, let's type in mobile devices. So our shortcut makes a little more sense. So now let's go back to the top, and now I've got my US location up here. I've got my mobile devices now, and so I can quickly toggle back. When I log in, remember I talked in the beginning about 10 minutes of time, right? So 10 minutes of time for when you're checking your email. You check your email. You jump into your analytics, or 10 minutes for your Google Plus. What's happening on your Google Plus, and make it a habit. So it's not like every, all the time, but like check it in the morning, check it after lunch, or before lunch, and then check it in the afternoon.
And can I add something for a moment here? How important, and thank you for creating that mobile devices shortcut, because David clearly states in the book, and we know this, that more and more folks are going to websites via a mobile device. So it's very good to know what percentage of our users, our visitors, are coming from mobile, what percentage are coming from something other than mobile.
Absolutely, absolutely. The other cool, so now let's look at a couple of, we talked about mobile, and that is going to be a huge key. I mean, Google's already talked about, on April 29th, they're releasing some really cool little updates to mobile search results, and it's going to be tagged as far as, if it's mobile ready and if it's slow or if it's fast. So I think that's going to be exciting. But this report here back in the mobile, when you start looking at that result, let's dig a little bit into that. What would cause a problem? Like, say, for example, let's take an iPad, and let's look at the session. So we've got, not a lot of traffic yet, but let's look at, its bounce rate. So overall, it's basically saying overall 62%. Well, really, is that true? Well, we've got 100% in Apple iPhone. We have one in this other phone. but then we only have 33% bounce on an iPad. So that means, I'm sure that basically the bounce rate is probably because of the type of phone and the size of the screen and maybe some of the layout. So we've got, they're looking at, so bounce rate, the low bounce rate is going to be key. It's going to be good. When you start looking at anything like 75%, we might want to look at something like, page experience or user experience. And that way, what's happening. Maybe, pull up an iPhone and pull up the website and then see what you guys see. Does it load right? Does it flow? And then also, does it also pass the test for? I think Google has been pushing out for a while the mobile friendly test. Anyway.
David, we did that in that Hangout. We did the mobile user experience and
how long it took to load.
Yeah, and the user experience.
Tell William what our score was on that, Vivek.
99 out of 100, William.
Oh, see, but you guys use the tool, and that's the neat part, and that's what a lot of the other companies are going to need to look at, in the future too. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's pause for a moment, William. Give us a good definition of bounce rate, then things that folks ought to do when they see high bounce rates.
Okay. So when you look at a bounce rate, and let's take a look at a better example for data real quick. Let's see if we can look at user flow, and let's take a look at a different type of dashboard when I explain this one. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at basically just city, and let's just take Cincinnati, and I'll highlight the traffic through this. So basically what this is telling me right now is basically the navigational path that this visitor took. Okay, so when I look at that, you end up going, okay, they came in, but at this point when I hover over, you can see they went over to live Hangouts on air, they went over to technology, confusing you, and then they also how do we do it, and then what we do. So there's a lot of different little pathways, but this is where it gets kind of where that bounce rate comes in. So it's almost the same in this definition. It's not called bounce rate. It's called kind of like drop off, but it's almost the same thing. It's like, okay, so we had traffic through here, but then we had 89% people that came to the starting page on the home page had fallen off. They didn't continue through the path. So how do we redefine a little bit more of what we're seeing here and say, okay, well, with this one, okay, that person went through 50%, and they went to the next path. You see how they went over here. What we're wanting to do is all traffic that comes into the home page or anywhere gets to my destination, and that's normally my contact page. When we're contact page or going through a product purchase. So in this case, if I was to use this and say, okay, the landing page here was for my iPod accessories, right? And so now that's the e-commerce page for the accessories. And then they went through further into the accessories and they found a case. And then they found the case and they added it to their shopping cart, followed the cart all the way through the path. And then we're able to see and track things like conversion reports. So goals.
Let me share, William, something else that by design Vivek and I have done. Every single page in dreamingwithentrepreneurs.com will have a video on it. Okay, at least one video. Some pages will have more than one video, and there will be opportunities for me to market the landing page and drive, just put a link into the landing page so people are going on the site and not coming through the homepage. So from a marketing perspective, I always have that option, to market landing pages as opposed to the homepage.
Sure, and that's going to be a powerful thing for you as you start going through the, and to get the goal flow report is not going to end up being a shortcuttable area. There's no on this one, but to be able to get back to that report, you can see this and you can go really diving into your video stuff as the traffic starts to develop.
Well, and for instance, I am going to put today's discussion on, I have a page on there, how we do it, okay? And we'll probably, Vivek, you agree that'll be a good location for this video on the how we do it page, because I specifically make the statement on that page that we use Google technology to make things work. So we'll take this video that we're doing today, that we're creating today with this HOA, and we'll embed it on that page.
Yeah, that sounds cool. And I think that it'd be, as we're looking at this, it'll be good for people to go through this hierarchy and really kind of look at how to work with it.
One thing I would like to ask you, William, at this point is, in this user flow that you are showing, is this the result of what the visitors did?
Yes, this is exactly what the visitors did. As they came through, like for example, on this one, we have, I think it's 72 sessions, 73 sessions. So the last example, I basically took it through Cincinnati, so we didn't have a lot of data. With this, this version I had just highlighted through now, yes, you're actually able to see, here they came in, all traffic, and then where did they go after? And it looks like, the majority of the traffic is actually going over to the Hangouts on Air, and then the other batch of traffic's going to the technology confusing you. And then who are we? And then you can even go through even further. So when you start looking at, okay, they went to live Hangouts, and these little tabs here, these little orange pieces, I mean, it's just another little flyout. But the information is great when you can just quickly gleam and say, okay, why are they dropping off at 75? Where are they going? Are they just leaving my page? And that's where bounce rate comes back into place, David, is when you have the bounce like that, you want to figure out how to fine-tune that and say, okay, if they are bouncing, why? And how do I make a better improvement? And that goes back to your sales. If this happens to be an e-commerce page, and you see that you have 25% or 25% is actually doing something with it, but then the rest are leaving, then that means I'm missing out on a lot of sales. And by just making a couple modifications with this data, I can then ask questions again. Once I've made a test, I said, okay, modified the page. Maybe I've changed a graphic, or I've added a video to the product, or I've added more description. All of a sudden now you'll start to see that this number goes to a totally different number, and your sales go up. So then when you start going back into an advanced report down here under conversions, right, this is where you have an opportunity to set up goals. Okay, so right now we don't have anything set up. But in order to set up a goal, it's pretty simple. Let's go ahead and go into the dashboard. So just following the steps here, and says, okay, what do I want to do? Well, in this case, I want to be able to track the thank you page. So I would go and I'd find the thank you page, but I can also go from a template. So say I didn't want to just add, an e-commerce. So back to the e-commerce, I can do all that in here, and I can say, okay, well, I want to be able to go to a, where is it? So they registered online. We don't want all that, but we want to actually do I'm going to do a custom. I prefer a custom.
Let me bring a point up at this time, William. As we speak, there are no call to actions really on the website by design. I mean, we're going to have them. We weren't ready to put them on the site. So there are no call to actions, which that will change the dynamic of this report, and also it'll change the way that we read the report, because we want to see that something is actually happening. They're converting. Those calls to action are converting.
So absolutely, and then it's as easy as setting. I like custom ones. I mean, there's a template that starts out, so you can kind of get the grasp of what kind of things you can add. But as far as for me, what I'm after is a contact page or a product sales page. I want to track the thank you to my shopping cart page. So basically, I can follow an entire funnel if I wanted to. But in this case, like when you guys, we can actually do the setup here in a second. But when you do it, it's just a matter of going through equals, and all you're going to be doing is putting the URL name. So it's / and it might be contact, and then you would verify our goal and hit save. Now there's other advanced things you can do. You can actually set a funnel. So basically, say for example, there's multiple steps in my e-commerce. So they came to the iPad page, my accessory page again, and then basically they added something to their shopping cart, and then in the next stage it would be they checked out, right? And so what I'm going to be able to do with that is then if I'm hooked up with AdWords, then I can also see exactly how much money I spent for my AdWords program, and I can also compare that with the lead that I have. And so you can really start gleaming a lot of light as a business owner selling a product, or even in our case with just the contact form, a lead gen. So there's multiple ways that you can work this, but without the tool, without this kind of information, you're kind of flying blind. But you get the technology advantage if you start using it and learning it. So.
William, can we add as an example, can we add a goal of someone visiting the Who We Are page, and then there are a couple of links there. One is a link to go to David's Google Plus profile. The other one is a link to go to his Dreaming with Entrepreneurs on Google Plus community.
Yes, it would be the same thing that we were just doing, the same kind of goals. You would just basically go and find the page, and you would set up that goal, and it will track multiple goals for you. And then when you go back down to your reporting, under goals, you'll have things like reverse goal path, so that you can go backwards and say, okay, how this person converted this many, or this page is actually converted so many times, but at the same time is where did they come from? How did they get to me? Were they coming from Facebook or Google Plus, or did they watch a hangout and all of a sudden now I've got a whole bunch of leads? I want to be able to go back and understand how that happened as a marketer, and then replicate that. And so if I can replicate that, then I can double my sales. But then I can also do what I've learned here in that study of reverse goal path. I can then go, okay, so let's do that same thing to another product, another service page. And so as you're doing this, you're fine-tuning your conversion cycle. Therefore, the next level of improvement is, okay, we've gotten this far with our analytics, we've gotten this far with our optimization of the pages. It's not like the typical SEO optimization that we're talking about. It's based.
So for setting the goals have to be links within the website, or can they be links outside? For example, on David's Who We Are page, there is a link to his Dreaming with Entrepreneurs community. So can that link be a goal?
It can. Well, you're basically checking to see if they've made to the destination. So yeah. You would. Let's do that. Let's go back into the goals real quick, and let's just take a look at how we would set that up. And again, templates are there. So this you would just say, David's book, right?
No, not the book. The community.
Okay, so you can only track that. So is there a page on your website that you can?
No, there is a link.
There's a link.
Okay, so you can tag that, and that's a little bit more advanced than I want to go. But there's ways that you can tag that, and we can talk about that in the future. To check outbounds, but really, what you're focused on is not really your outbound traffic. Yes, it's helpful for giving stats of how much traffic are you giving somebody else maybe,
Hmm.
But at the end of
No,
the day, I,
what I was saying was that if someone clicks on that outbound link, of course, but
mhm.
still someone clicks, for now that can be treated as a goal, as some, I mean, for example, the goal can be to get more people subscribe or join the community. How do we do that? How do we if that's the goal, how do we achieve that, or
Well,
how do we analyze?
I think it would be different. I wouldn't probably focus on the actual.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
I would focus more back on what we were talking about, back into like the user flow
okay.
type
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Because I think if we go back into that, you can even do the same thing from like your social. If we're looking at social, there's also a user flow report now in that.
Mm-hmm.
So same concept.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that outbound's good, but I mean you got to also kind of look at what your goal is. That is a good goal because that is a trackable element. But unfortunately, you know, a lot of what you're going to see in here is what is happening on your site, as well, but not necessarily the outbound clicks. But you can track that through tagging. So um,
Mm-hmm.
we
Okay.
can do that again. But let's also go back into like now that we're in social, we looked at the actual graph. As we start looking at this data, you're going to start even seeing where your traffic's coming from. Like here's Google Plus. Here's 3 segments of Google Plus information that when we
Mm.
start to dive into it, we may see a little bit more. This is it was shared with, and so here's basically um, some information about basically what it was on. What was
Mm.
information. So as we start to see and we collect, we're going to have a lot more of this as well come in. But again, uh, most of the like the referral network and stuff like that, you can easily go up and create that shortcut again. Now here's network referrals. So let's grab that one because that was what we were just on in just a second ago. So when we look at this, we can go back up to mobile. Right, here's the same report we were looking at a second ago. Here's
Mm-hmm.
my U.S. local, and then now we've got the same report we were just looking at just a second ago. The hard part is when we were in this other report with the um, social visitor flow and
Mm-hmm.
the analytics. We can go backwards, like here up in the top. We can go back to all. See how easily I'll go back to that so we can see. So when I'm basically on that
Mm.
shortcut, it's already in the data, so I can see how many this actually has. But then if I
Mm.
didn't want to actually have that, I just go right back to all, and now I can see it'll basically say Facebook and everything else that's coming. So little fun little shortcuts. But what you have to do is really figure out, you guys, explore the data. When you find data that's valuable to you and your company, that's where the shortcut really comes into play. Because the hard part is there's so much data in here. It's really overwhelming at
Mm.
times for many people to come in, especially if as we started talking about executives or even sales representatives, looking at the data, they can have view access to certain areas, uh,
Mm.
and so basically they're, they can log in the morning, check their stuff, and then when the marketer comes in the meeting and starts talking geek like William does, then they can actually participate more in the meeting, and it's more productive overall for the company, right?
Mm.
Because
Mm.
if they know that all of a sudden their pages are getting tracked, you've got different things like what landing pages are actually being hit, from social, what landing pages are coming from uh, query, from actual organic, where are they actually going on the site. So, another good report as we're here, would be, under search. So actually under acquisitions, we've already done like the all traffic and referrals. And now let's go into, so we do the same thing. We did landing page. This is going to be the same kind of, information, but kind of, we looked at bounce reports before, but now we've got a different dashboard. You'll see things change. And I would pay attention to really kind of what's up here. So in this case, we've got impressions, and we also have clicks. And then we also have average positions. So, we're only looking right now at the landing pages themselves. But what if I wanted to actually look at the queries? Like what queries are actually coming in to create that traffic? That would be another one I would definitely shortcut. Bring that up. And so now up in the top we have shortcuts for queries. So it's there's my 10 minutes of time again. I only have a couple reports to go through, but the data that I'm going to actually glean from that can actually make some really powerful decisions in how I run my department.
Well, as I said, this report, the Google Analytics, will become increasingly more important as we create calls to action and see how folks respond to those calls to action.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's going to be exciting watching you guys grow with this knowledge, because now, as you guys go through together, you're going to find, certain reports that David, you like, and then, others that he likes, and so you both have your own dashboards. That's the beauty of this. So you can actually, when you're logged in under your username, you have your dashboard. You have your permissions from Google, but then at the same time as, just because I added this USA locations doesn't mean you guys are going to see that in your shortcuts. So it's custom to you and what you want to see. And you can always go in and modify these shortcuts too. So backup and admin, when we look for basically the shortcuts, where are we at? Blank in here. In here, they moved it on me. I'm not seeing it, but basically there's a shortcuts tab in here. Come on, William.
Shortcuts tab.
Yeah. Basically,
look at the bottom. Look at the bottom. Two things from the bottom, right there.
There it is. Okay. See, I was just blind. I'm sorry. So those are the shortcuts we've just added up there in the left-hand side, right? So if I wanted to, there's different actions in here. I can rename it. So say I actually had a typo, and maybe I didn't, I didn't want to put USA location. So now I changed that. So now it's location. So when I go back into my reporting tab, now it's going to actually say location. So everything is customizable to work for you and your environment and what data you're looking for. It's just a matter of just taking the little time to say, okay, what am I looking for, and then getting a little bit comfortable with the interface, because again, it is overwhelming, a lot of data, but if you can start with the basic, even what we have here today, that's pretty much a really good baseline package for a lot of people to look at. Now, would I go more elaborate, like if I'm doing an AdWords campaign, I'd probably add my data for my traffic segmentation for AdWords. What are my campaigns that I'm running? What are the queries? What are my hours a day that I get in all my traffic? What are the destination URLs that are actually being hit? So it's a lot of fun, guys. I mean, I definitely encourage you to experience it, and there's a lot of great tutorials out there on how to use and simplify.
Well, and you bring up a great point, William, in that my interest in Google Analytics, is, I don't want to say dramatically different than Vivek's, but Vivek, as the webmaster, wants to know how traffic flows, and then he'll say, "Hey, David, this isn't happening on. It's not flowing well. They're leaving. They're bouncing off of this page." And then we'll say, okay, maybe we need some new content. Maybe we need to do something new and different there. So he'll say, David, I need some content. And so I'll create the content for the page.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And it's neat when you actually have a team, though, that's starting to work together with you, though, because then it's, you don't just have one person saying, "Hey, I see all this," and then everybody going, "Well, I don't know how to take that. I don't know how to understand how to work with that." But if everybody has some basic knowledge of the tool and a basic understanding of what's happening, they can make those corrections and then really actually accelerate their business even further.
Well, I want to thank you, William, tremendously for displaying this today. Not only is it good information for me as we are, going to start marketing the website? But it's for the other folks who, well, there's a couple ways to look at it. If you're developing a website, start at the beginning and get it going from the beginning. But another way that I really like David's book is it validates, what we've done, and it either works or it doesn't work based upon that validation. So that's another way to look at all this information that's out there. And I want to thank you. You are the Google Analytics expert, and I'd like to ask you to come back in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, and we'll look at this report again, and you'll say, hey, David, I don't know if you saw this or not. Here's what you need to do. Here's somewhere where you need to go. But once again, we'll get those action steps out there. I mean, the calls to action, and that's really what I'm interested in. Are people responding to those?
Absolutely. And then, thanks for having me on the show today. I think, the other thing, I will have a copy here soon for you guys of my book, and that's going to have kind of exactly what we went through today, but more of the screenshots, easy to use. Any executive can basically open this book and should be able to open this book and be able to say, okay, here's my basics. I don't even know anything how to do it, but here's how I log in.
Your book, is your book actually a book on Google Analytics?
It's going to be on conversion analytics and a little bit about the history of the search and how important it is to be able to adapt your business to.
Well, anytime, William, as you well know, when you want to do an HOA to market your book, so to speak, let me know, and we will absolutely. I'd be honored to have an HOA with you to talk about your book.
Thank you.
You just let me know what time, and we'll make it work.
Not a problem. I think it will be helpful for everybody, and that's really the reason why I'm building it. Being as we've been teaching all summer, well, now 3 years now on Hangouts, but at the same time, it's the same questions seem to always arise, and simplifying it is, that's the new way. How do we make it faster?
Now, speaking of books, this HOA is going to be a bonus chapter in my digital video book. Not necessarily designed and planned, but bonus because we took advantage of an opportunity that presented itself. So this HOA will, and Vivek and I are, as we speak, creating the environment of how we're actually going to have our book, publish our book. And we're going to be using, it's going to be an all Google technology book, as a matter of fact. So we know that Vivek had an idea, and he said, why don't you, because I was looking at all different kinds of things and wondering how it's going to work and how complicated. We want to keep things as simple as possible. So Vivek said to me last week, why don't you do this? I said, wow, I've been looking for it's so simple. The solution that you have for me, and so we're working on that right now.
Fantastic! Excited. It's fun to be part of this and watch the system grow. I mean, from where we started to where we are now, it's great to watch the Dreaming with Entrepreneurs.
Well, wait till we get wait till we take the show on the road, and that one of the stops on the road is going to be Kansas City for lots of reasons.
Well, shoot, I would be glad to host that over here in real life.
Well, we'll do it. We'll do it inside the Kauffman Foundation. We'll sneak in the lobby and we'll do a show there.
Hey, we can probably use the Sprint Accelerator building because I'll be speaking on that on the 30th, and so.
Wow, you're actually doing a presentation at the Kauffman Foundation?
Not at the Kauffman. It's going to be the Sprint Accelerator.
Ah. Good. Well, thank you very much, Vivek. Do you have any comments you would like to make in summary of today's discussion?
No, not really. But I did notice that both of you did bring up the point of making things simple.
I got a good teacher on that one, Vivek.
So do I.
I study Leonardo da Vinci, and I study. Oh yeah, Vivek is in that. He's in that crowd too. Okay, well, thank you guys, and to the community, if you have any questions, either post them in the event stream. Make sure you plus me on it, or plus William, or plus Vivek on it. You will get answers from them about your specific question. If you'd like to contact me directly, do that. It doesn't matter. We want to get answers to your questions. That's what it's all about. My name is Small Biz David, and we will see you the next time, which may very well be the best time.